Hello, my name's DJ Hilson. I'm the Muskegon County Prosecutor. A county prosecutor by statute, is designated as the chief law enforcement officer of the county. We're responsible for working with law enforcement on making sure that when investigations are done, they are ready essentially to be charged. So when somebody does something wrong, when the police investigate, the police then turn their investigation over to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutors then review that investigation and make a determination as to what crime was committed and who ultimately is responsible for committing that crime. And our responsibility is to charge that case and then move it through the judicial process, ultimately, eventually either securing a plea or representing the people of the state of Michigan in a criminal trial. And as in any criminal case, it's our responsibility to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. And if we do so, a jury or a judge ultimately convicts that individual, and then our responsibility turns to making sure that there's an appropriate sentence or consequence for the particular crime that was charged. Unfortunately, in the prosecution and law enforcement business, we get asked this question all the time. Does human trafficking, does sex trafficking really exist? Or is it just some fantasy that was made up in a book or a movie or a TV show? I'm telling you right now that human trafficking, sex trafficking exists. It's happening in your neighborhood. It's happening in your town. It's happening in your state. This is a real crime. And unfortunately, because of the fact of how it's done, because it's done somewhat in secret, because it preys upon those vulnerable people who may not be either too shameful or too embarrassed to say anything, this crime is able to sort of have its tentacles crawl across the county lines, the state lines, the city lines, without really anybody noticing. But it does happen. It does exist. We've handled many investigations here in Muskegon County involving, unfortunately, very young, very vulnerable individuals. And so if it can happen in Muskegon, it can happen anywhere. So please understand that this is not something that's make-believe. This is not something that's Hollywood created. This is real, and this is why we need your help in order to make sure that this doesn't happen to you, and it doesn't happen to your friends, and more importantly, it doesn't happen in your neighborhood, your town, your state. We are all in this together. When we look at the crime of sex trafficking or human trafficking and try to analyze and look at who are the victims or the victimized of that particular crime, certainly the ones that are most vulnerable to that are the young, typically, because young people do not have the same life experiences as older adults. And also, young people also have different experiences that they're going through in their life. It could be that they are struggling with low self-esteem, or their environment, whether it be their home environment or their school environment, has got them in such a state that they have nowhere else to turn to. They have no one else really to talk to. And ultimately, because in today's day and age, with the use of cell phones and social media, unfortunately, those that prey upon the vulnerable are surfing social media, surfing the web, looking for young people who are struggling to find somebody that they can actually connect with, someone that they can confide in. And it's easy to disguise themselves as a peer, as someone that is of the same age, same circumstance, in order to try and have that victim confide in them some of their feelings and, unfortunately, innermost dark secrets. And that's where, unfortunately, in today's day and age, victims of human trafficking or sex trafficking come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. They come from all different areas. There is no one particular location or area that is key or a hot point for victims of sex trafficking. Unfortunately, because young people all fall within this vulnerable category, they can all become victims of sex trafficking. I think if we all look back in our own lives and life experiences, we can probably pinpoint a time when we felt vulnerable. And again, unfortunately, that's what makes the perpetrators, or those who prey upon sex trafficking victims, it makes their job a whole lot easier, because we all have felt at some point in time of our life that state of vulnerability, whether it was, having disagreements with our parents, or having issues and struggles at school, from bullying to not getting along with your peers, or just not understanding and respecting authority. All those circumstances and life experiences have all been a part of every one of our lives at some point. And unfortunately, those that prey upon victims and look to find those who are in that vulnerable state have easy pickings, because at some point in time, we've all experienced that. And certainly that's what makes this particular area, this particular crime, something that is absolutely necessary to chase after, be aggressive on, and take these folks off the street. So as we've experienced in the investigations that we've done here in Muskegon, and certainly based off of conversations that we've had with our peers across the state and even in the federal system, what we see is a common theme amongst predators who are looking to prey upon the vulnerable is that they find ways, usually through some type of social media outlet. Today's day and age, young people, their lives are social media. They spend most of their time, whether it be on Snapchat or whatever the latest and greatest platform is, to really express themselves as individuals, but also connect. And the networking and connecting, I think, is probably some of the most important, at least for young people in their lives. They want to be able to connect, they want to be able to network, and it's always important to have a bunch of people like you, have a bunch of people, love your post or do something, react to a post that you've done. And that's where these predators lie in wait, because they're waiting to find those who are looking to connect. And unfortunately, young people don't necessarily have the discretion, if you will, not to follow somebody or have somebody follow you without really finding out who that person really is. And you'll hear, I think, time and time again from myself, from my colleagues, from those that have worked these cases, it's really important that as a young person, when you're on social media, make sure that the people you're communicating with, you've actually met face to face. They're your peers from school. They're your relatives or friends that you've had an opportunity to actually chat with and see, and that you know for a fact that those are the ones that you're talking to. Because it's very easy to put a picture on of somebody else, to pretend to be somebody else, and really to pray and ask the appropriate questions, to be sympathetic where they need to be understanding. That's an easy part to play when all you're doing is looking at a screen and communicating one-on-one via screen. So, quite frankly, you folks out there, please take the time. Make sure that the folks that you're communicating with online, via social media, are people that you already know, that you already have an established connection with. And be very wary about someone who all of a sudden seems to have the same likes that you have, seems to be going through the same struggles that you have, and it's somebody that you've never met before. That is a true telltale sign that is a predator waiting to pounce. One of the things that's really important to understand is that you may find yourself in a vulnerable situation thinking that you aren't a vulnerable person. You could be someone who is very confident, comes from a great home life, is doing pretty well in school, and all of a sudden find yourself in a situation where somebody's asking you to try something, sometimes alcohol, sometimes drugs. Students at the age of middle school, as young as 12, are experimenting with all sorts of things, whether it be alcohol, whether it be marijuana, whether it be other drugs. Understand that the predators of human trafficking and sex trafficking use that mentality of, well, my friends are trying it, I might as well try it because, all I'm doing is just trying it and nothing bad's going to happen. Again, when we talk about young people and not having the life experience of understanding what alcohol does to the body, understanding what drugs do to the body, and ultimately the predators of sex trafficking understanding exactly what those substances do to the body, you can get yourself in a whole lot of trouble really fast and not really appreciate and understand that it's happening. So again, I caution all of you, do not find yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by folks and they're getting you to or pressuring you to try something that you've never done before. I absolutely highly recommend and encourage you not to put yourself in the situation where you're trying alcohol. Don't put yourself in the situation where you're trying other illegal substances like marijuana or other hard drugs. That's going to essentially do two things. One, you're going to find yourself in a state that you don't understand and may not even remember. Two, it also may put you in a state where you become addicted to those substances, and ultimately that addiction is going to drive that perpetrator to feed your addiction. In other words, you're not going to get that drug until you do this for me. You're not going to get that alcohol unless you do this for me. And your body won't understand that it's putting itself in a dangerous situation because it's going to crave that substance. Trust me, having been in this business now for over 21 years, substance abuse is a very powerful thing. It drives people to do things that they would never do if they weren't addicted to that substance. Understand that whether it be alcohol or other drugs, it's never an experiment. It's a life-altering decision. Don't make it at this young age. Don't put yourself in a position where you lose control over your own actions, you lose control of your body. And ultimately, don't put yourself in a position that gives a perpetrator of sex trafficking the ability to control you through the use of a substance, because you will find yourself spiraling down a dark hole that you do not want to be. I think it's really important that as young folks start to explore the power and wonder of social media and the internet, that you keep this first and foremost in your heads. That you need the awareness that not everyone that you see or like or share with is going to be your friend. And that's really, really important. I think one of the most important things that as a young person that you need to recognize and appreciate is that we all have private lives. The very nature of who we are as humans and really who we are as United States citizens is that ability to be private. Privacy is one of the most important things that a human being, the United States citizen has. And you need to cherish that like you would cherish anything else. And I think what we've seen in the past in investigations and certainly in prosecutions is that young people don't appreciate how important that privacy is. And they're willing to share that with whomever they feel that they can trust, even if they haven't seen that person face to face, even if they don't really know that person outside of some online communication. And what's really important is that once you provide that private information, and that could be anything, that could be, where you live, how many brothers and sisters you have, what your intimate, most private thoughts are. Once you share that information, that private information that is yours and yours to hold, you lose the ability to maintain that power in privacy. You have essentially given that right to, unfortunately, a predator who isn't going to cherish it like you cherish it. They're going to use it against you, and we've seen it. We've seen that information be used to place that particular victim in fear for their safety, fear for their family's safety. We've seen it being used to extort information, to get you to do things that you wouldn't normally do because you don't understand that they're using your power of privacy against you. And so unfortunately that leads to kids doing things like, taking their clothes off, doing things in front of a camera they wouldn't normally do, all because they fear that if they don't do those things, something bad's going to happen to them or something bad is going to happen to their family. And so it all goes back to the very beginning. Don't share your private life on social media. That's not the avenue. That's not where it belongs. You need to find a trusted person that you can trust if you want to confide into somebody about your private life, your private information. Social media, the people that you chat with online, that's not the avenue, that's not the vehicle. As much as they are going to tell you they are going through the same thing, they're going through the same struggles, they're feeling the same thing, they are not going to use that information in your best interest. So if there's one thing that you take away from this particular video, understand that through the experience that my office and the offices across the state of Michigan, as well as the federal government, have experienced, is that once you turn your private life over to the realm of social media, to the predators of social media, that power is lost, and then it's being used and turned against you. Keep that to yourself. Keep that private life. Keep those little things that you need to keep to yourself. Keep it private. And if anything, talk with a trusted adult, someone that you know, a trusted friend, but not on social media. Keep it off of TikTok. Keep it off of Snapchat. Keep it off of whatever platform you're using to chat with your friends. It's probably not Facebook, because only us old geezers use that. But keep it off of social media, please. Because again, the folks that are talking to you that you feel are really sympathizing with you and that you can trust, those are the folks that are going to prey. Those are the folks that you can't trust. And I guarantee you, those are the folks that are not your friends. So what happens if you have shared too much? What happens if you find yourself, or more importantly, you are made aware of a friend that has put themselves in this position where they've shared too much information and now it's being used against them? What should you do? First and foremost, don't be embarrassed. Don't feel ashamed. Don't stand on the sidelines and let your friend feel embarrassed or ashamed. Understand that we in the law enforcement community are here to help you. We've seen it. We've seen it many, many times. There isn't a story, there isn't a piece of information that we haven't seen in an investigation that is going to make us feel any less of you as a person. In fact, we're going to be fighting hard to make sure that we protect you and that we put these folks who are using this information in the wrong way behind bars where they belong. So don't keep that to yourself. If you have experienced that, or you know somebody who has, tell somebody. Tell somebody immediately. Call a police officer. Call 911. Do something in order to get that cycle broken. Because without that, this predator or these predators are going to continue to prey on those who are just like you. And we've got to stop that cycle. So please, reach out. There are people who are there to help. And it could be your parents. It could be a teacher. It could be a principal. It could be a friend. It could be a friend's parent. Whoever it is, reach out. Talk, and let us help you end this cycle of human trafficking, this cycle of taking advantage of those who don't deserve to be taken advantage of, because we are here for you. So I want to talk to the folks that maybe have had friends or are experiencing or seeing friends go through this struggle right now. Or maybe a friend has confided in you that someone is taking advantage of them or getting them to do things online. Or they've met somebody who's a stranger who now all of a sudden has become keenly interested in a lot of personal and private information, and they're telling you this. I'm asking you, do not be a bystander. Don't stand on the sidelines. Don't let your friend, your peer, your classmate, whoever it may be, get taken advantage of. Because ultimately, I think we all have a responsibility to protect each other. If we do that, if we maintain that idea that I'm going to protect you just like I'm hoping you will protect me, then these predators have no ground to stand on. Because no matter whether you're directly involved as a victim or you are indirectly involved because you know somebody that's going through this, we can stop this. So please, regardless of what that person, that friend may ask you not to say or not to do, understand that you have the power to stop this from happening. So please don't stand on the sidelines. Be brave, be courageous, and in the end, you will do more good than you could ever imagine. Because one, we can stop the cycle of that particular predator, which then filters down to the other predators. As a team, we can do this. We can beat this. And we are relying on you to help us out. So please, don't stand on the sidelines. Be a strong support for a peer, a friend, whatever it may be, because you can help stop this.